Welcome back, everybody. Derrick Sue, your East Oakland advocate. Well, today I'm going to follow up from the previous episode where I was talking about PTSD and depression, and I was going to follow that up with emotional support animals because I've always had a dog around me a majority of my life. Not all of my life, but a majority of my life. And um, there have been periods where I didn't have an animal. One of those periods, a recent, was when my dog that I spoke about in the last episode, Pandora, my American Staffordshire Terrier, she got to be too old. She was actually 13. I needed to put her down. She was having a lot of issues, and she was at a point where she was literally giving me the signals, I'm too tired to go on. And so uh, I put her down and had her cremated. And that was in July of 2016. And um, the first attempt on my life to kill me came in October, just a few months after I had put her down. And so she was my emotional support animal for my depression and also my protector at the same time. And she was very smart, very intelligent dog, and very dangerous dog because she was trained. Uh, we actually went through a military canine course. While she didn't get certified, she got what I needed into her, and for her to have to make her dangerous and to become a protector, a guard dog. And also Mary, my other dog, she also went through the canine course, but uh, she failed in terms of protection guarding dog. She was became really good at search and rescue. I mean, she could find things that were just astounding. Great nose on that dog because she was a Labrador and Whippet mix. So she was a hunting and sniffing dog, a sight hound. Her mother was a sight hound. That's a coursing dog. That's the Whippet, and they're one step down from a greyhound. So they're really quick. They're hunting. They were used for rabbits. They have an incredible sense of smell. And then on top of that, her father was a Labrador Retriever, so that dog could run. It was a field dog, hunting dog, retrieving dog, swimming dog. So very intelligent dog, and I had both of them. And Mary served as an alert dog, and then Pandora was our family protector. And so uh, these are all key elements when you have to consider a pet. Do you want a family member that's for decoration, essentially? That's a lot of the folks that have Frenchies. I'm sorry, folks, but that's a status dog. That's not a dog that's going to have any kind of protective properties other than being a short little noisemaker. And I grew up with those, and those were called Dachshunds, the wiener dogs, and my mother loved them. They were great at making noise. They were great at gnawing your ankles apart. But as far as a real guard dog, you know, my parents' home got broke into twice when we moved into the Buenaventura Avenue home in 1966. We moved there. Our home break-in was in 1967. About a year later, it was in the summer. They took our color TV. We were one of the few neighbors in the neighborhood that had brand new color TV. And how they knew we had it? Because they saw it delivered in the delivery truck. And so it was just a couple of weeks later, our home was broken into while we were out. And essentially, they just kicked the little wiener dog aside and did whatever they wanted. And so, and then in 1968, once again, the home was broken into. uh, at the top, shortly after Christmas. I mean, it was shortly after Christmas when the home was broken into, and a lot of toys and gifts that were received during the holidays were stolen and ransacked and destroyed. And so it was at that time when my father finally broke down, got the family a guard dog, and I worked with this dog from a puppy, and it was a Belgian Shepherd. And my dad got a female version because they're more family oriented, and so that's one of my early dogs that I trained, and she was great. And all the burglaries stopped in the home, uh, you know, until she got too old, and then we ended up replacing her after a break-in, or actually the break-in. We had already gotten the new dog, and it was my hunting dog, and I was keeping it at my parents' place when their place got broke into, and the the kids that broke into the home almost killed this puppy. Rather than stealing the dog or something, they chose to kick it and throw objects at it. And when my mother got home and saw the condition of the dog in the garage, got it down to the vet. The vet said there's not much chance he's going to make it through the night, but the dog was very strong willed and willed himself back into existence, and ever since then, up until his passing, that was a very dangerous dog to a certain nationality group. I couldn't even bring my friends near my house without Smokey uh, literally tearing down a steel door to get at people. And Smokey tore down two steel doors. I mean, literally ripped them right off uh, um, the molding around the door frame. And my dad was really upset because Smokey is a big dog, 105-pound black lab, and he was pissed at this certain group, and he associates that with the harm that they caused to him, and him having probably that near-death experience. And so uh, that's why I tell people, don't get more dog than you can handle. And there's been instances where I've had personal friends. In fact, my staff sergeant got himself into a situation where he had more dog than he can handle, and his wife was terrified of the dog because the dog was 150 pounds, the wife was 95. And showing fear to a dog like this, it can have very, very bad consequences. And then my staff sergeant, he was injured. He had a broken leg. He was on a cast, in a cast, walking with a cane. And this dog, uh, the type of dog he got was an Akita. And this Nuba was 150 pounds of playful puppy. And my staff sergeant was 280 pounds, like a linebacker. He's a big dude. And when I showed up, I heard my staff sergeant screaming for help. Yeah, this dog had overpowered him because he was disabled through the broken leg and walking on a crutch. Dog took the crutch away. Now what the dog also did was grab hold of the cast and yanked my friend literally off his feet and was dragging his big butt all around the yard when I showed up, and he's screaming for help. So I know the dog knows me. I got Nuba back under control, put him back in his kennel, and told my friend, in the next year, you're going to have to get rid of the dog because he knows he can overpower you and he can run you. And he also is aware that your wife is terrified of him. And that's a really bad combination. You want a dog that loves you and is willing to lay down their life to protect you. And that's what I always train my dogs to do. Uh, and then, like you said, Pandora, my American Staffordshire Terrier, she was my emotional uh, uh, dog during my depression years and while I was under medication. While I was under medication, there were times and periods where I couldn't wake up. And so it was her who kept me alive down there while I was homeless and helpless because I couldn't wake up while I was under medication from Zoloft. And so the dog was very dedicated and loyal to me. And then even when I was away having my surgery in 2015, I told her about what was going to happen for the next week and that I would be back in about 6 or 7 days, and that a certain person would be coming to feed her and everything. And uh, in most cases, if the dog doesn't understand, that dog the next day will be gone because they're looking for you. Well, Pandora was a very smart dog, and also I left evidence that I'm going to be back, such as dirty jacket or a jacket with my scent. I'm not so much dirty, but a jacket that I wore recently, t-shirts that I wore recently, and then I put it on my pillow that was there, and that assured her that I was going to return. And then having a certain person that she knew feeding her and giving her food, that reassured her that there was no need for her to run off. And so she guarded my area while I was in the hospital and made sure nobody violated that space because there was things in there that were very valuable at the time, namely one of my guns. And so she made sure that nobody entered that spot. And when I got back, yeah, she was a little bit mad at me because she didn't quite understand what was happening. And then, after she sees my condition and everything, she starts understanding, and then starts lightening up. It's amazing how in tune dogs can be with you. Emotional stress animals are really important for a positive diversion in the person's mental state. And that's one of the things that I've always loved about having an animal. Whenever a dog senses that you're sad, and they're very closely bonded to you, they'll come up and they'll do a whole lot of things to try and make you feel better and divert your sadness to them and try and make you happy, and uh, or they'll be there to sympathize with you, which is very unique because a lot of times you don't even have a spouse that wants to sympathize with you at times, but yet that emotional support animal will be right there at your side, and they'll be with you, and uh, they'll they really sense your emotions, your anxiety, your tears that you may have, because some folks with PTSD, uh, it's a fight or flight type of mental crisis going on in their head, and if you're in flight, uh, a lot of different things can manifest, such as trembling from the fear of trauma or reliving that trauma again. There's also tears. I occasionally have those uncontrolled tears, which is part of one of the symptoms of PTSD. And at times I don't even know and understand why those tears are forming, but yet because of some environmental issues or something that has triggered my PTSD, uh, that's what happens. And there's two different levels of PTSD that folks you need to be aware of. There's a very light trigger where uh, it it can be controlled through distractions or mild medications, such as um, you know, since my cancer treatment, I've also used 420 cannabis as one of the uh, uh, natural methods to control light triggers of my PTSD. And believe me, there are a host. I can write a book on all the light triggers that happen. And then it's the cannabis, a certain strain that I use that calms me down. And we find that natural uh, remedies are better and more effective and longer lasting. And so uh, mixing this with my regular mental health physician, my oncologist, and then working on my triggers, making sure that I'm aware and making sure that those triggers aren't happening around me to really make things uh, unstable for me mentally. And it comes back again to a good emotional support animal like what I have right now. And she's a very large dog. And for a senior like myself, this is a very overpowering dog because she is very powerful. And she's called an American Bulldog. And she is 110 pounds, so she can easily overpower a person just by running into them. And so I have her on voice command control, and that's what I've had even with little Pandora. I use voice commands and also hand signals with that animal because sometimes out in the field, the dog gets out of your voice range. And so when the dog looks back at you, you can give them hand signals and they still understand what you're trying to come across with. And so, and those animals get really, really bonded to you. And it's important that you uh, at first establish trust with that animal. That's what I always do. The first 2 weeks, 30 days, it's all about building trust with that animal, making sure that they understand that they are now a permanent member of the family, and then building trust. And then they're also learning the do's and don'ts, kind of the boundaries, what I call the boundaries that is expected of them. And then by creating those boundaries, it also creates a line of expectation. And so the dog has expectations of you, and then I have expectations of the dog. And long as we are both in agreement, which comes through trust, that line of trust again, that's what establishes that very strong bond where that dog is emotionally tied to you, along with protecting you and defending you. And she is a big dog. She creates an illusion of a threat because she looks like a huge pit bull, and she's not a pit bull. There's a big difference between a pit bull and American bulldog. The temperament is night and day difference. And American bulldog, by historical facts, is a farming working animal, a farming animal. And these dogs are bred to protect herds and livestock from coyote, wolves. These can also fight and take down wild boar. These are powerful dogs, and but if you treat them right, you train them right, they are just the most loving animals. And when you have a trigger of your PTSD, this is important to have that great emotional support from an animal who understands and is bonded with you and helps you change your mindset, your mental state of mind at that time, so to speak, into something more positive. And this is important. This is why uh, if you're triggered and you have high anxiety, you have the flight, the flight. Uh, anxiety. It can be very devastating, and this is the one thing that you can have that helps change that state of mind very quickly. And we also see emotional support animals do really great work and then bring attention to seniors who have a hard time with attention. And so these are, again, are emotional support animals that benefit mankind and our families, not only with um, helping uh, with the emotional, uh, changing your emotional state, but also protecting you. Thanks for joining me today. We'll be right back.